Comments about there. I'd like to thank the effort of the students, staff, and community volunteers for over 30,000 donations to the College Talent Association. During the 44th annual thing. And put it where you can hear me.
Yeah.
All right, we'll start over. We'd like to thank the effort of students, staff, and community volunteers. Over 30,000 in donations to Garden City Community College Endowment Association were pledged during the 44th annual Phonathon. Thank you to everyone who volunteered for their time and donations to help other students succeed. I'd like to call attention to our volleyball team that is doing very well this year. I think better than I remember in history. But the other thing that they did the last volleyball game, there were volleyball teams from Syracuse and Sublette that came in and observed the volleyball. It helped fill up the gym. And then I think it was last Thursday, Cindy Venjon had a group of ag teachers from different schools throughout the area in for a seminar that from what they were telling me, they'd had a great time, and I'd like to thank Cindy for her efforts in doing that. Now we'll go to a report from SGA. Would you please be sure we know your name?
Okay. My name is Yesenia Castro. I'm the president of SGA. Today we have our September updates. For September 4th, we had our welcome picnic near the volleyball courts. It was our first held event that we hosted, so we had very low attendance compared to the recent ones we've been having. After that, on September 11th, we held our first all-student organization meeting. We had about 5 clubs come, but due to the time interference, many students were still in class, so we've pushed our meetings back to 12:30, but the SGA members are still there from 12 until 1. September 18th through the 23rd was our homecoming week. The first day we had Constitution Day, which we held a quiz in the quad and we served cake and lemonade, and we had a very good attendance. On Tuesday, the 19th, we had a car smash, which was our most popular, and we had over 150 participants. And then on the 20th, we had Zumba and Roots Juice. We had over 200 people in attendance, and we also had participation from Art Club, where they donated canvases and paint to us. The 21st, we had our bonfire, and thanks to Great Western Dining, we were able to serve brownies and lemonade. And then Saturday, we had the homecoming game, and SGA had rehearsals at 9 a.m. for all members and candidates. And we think that went pretty smoothly, given the circumstances of some of our candidates being in band and in dance. And then the 29th, some of the SGA members volunteered at Jenny Wilson for Play 60, which was an outside event all day for the students where we play different activities. In October, we have coming up on this Thursday, Purple Thursday, where we are handing out water bottles with purple wristbands with the helpline, and it also says speak up on it for domestic violence. And we are also having, I believe, Mixed Nutrition come and serve samples in the quad all morning. And then on the 27th, we are hosting our Halloween Fest, which will be in the building transit from 6 to 9. And I believe we have almost every club participating. That is all.
Sounds like you're really busy.
Yes, we are.
Good.
Thank you.
Questions? Keep up good work.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to introduction of new employees. Do we have some?
Ryan, go ahead and come up. Ryan Lumpkin enters his first season here at Garden City Community College as the second assistant baseball coach / residential life coach. Originally from Arkansas, Ryan has been a baseball player since he's been 3 years old. He began his baseball career at Eastern Oklahoma State College and later transferred to the University of Central Missouri. Ryan holds a bachelor's degree in data and business analytics. Please welcome Ryan Lumpkin.
Like to introduce Lindsay Keebler. She is our new Director of Endowment and Annual Giving. Lindsay is a dedicated professional with a passion for nonprofit development and community transformation. Born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, her journey in higher education and philanthropy has been driven by her unwavering commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. Her academic journey led her to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, where she pursued a bachelor's degree in communication and political science. This has laid a foundation for her career, equipping her with the skills necessary to make a meaningful impact in the nonprofit sector. Previously, Lindsay contributed significantly to the field of nonprofit development while working with the Centers for Youth and Families Foundation. In this role, she demonstrated her commitment to improving the lives of underserved populations, showcasing her empathy and dedication to the betterment of communities. Welcome, Ms. Lindsay.
I have a question for the coach. When I was working with the residential hall, residential life, whatever, we had to have a coach of the residents. So how do you coach them? Just kidding.
Well, I also had a comment on Cynthia. One of the things that was told to me was when she got here, she jumped right in at the phone-a-thon. Worked like she knew what she was doing and she was a big help. And that was very much appreciated by those folks that were working it. So thank you.
Thank you both.
Are there any more? Okay. Then we'll get the report from Faculty Senate.
All right, so we haven't had a meeting. We have our next meeting tomorrow. Kind of the main thing that we're seeing with Faculty Senate right now is the requests coming in for continuing education or kind of the faculty going on their trips to kind of learn. We had a nice odd request from Jamie. We have one from political science for tomorrow to look over. We have our next learning communities is going to be the Cadaver Lab, November 6th at 2:30. So kind of a staff, faculty, anyone interested to kind of learn about what we have there. When I was in admissions, I haven't checked yet to see if it's changed, but we were the only community college in Kansas that had a Cadaver Lab. So it's something that's really something to be proud of for the science students. But we tomorrow PTK has a day of play from 11 to 1 outside the quad, arts and science kind of day of play. You know, that's kind of the main thing, just the kind of middle of the semester, continuing education requests, learning communities for us right now. The first 9 weeks is finished, so most of them survived.
Cody, just a question on your continuing education requests. Does everybody get one, get their requests, or do you have to pick and choose? Who gets what?
We try to, as faculty senate, kind of discuss, the few years that I've been on faculty senate, it's pretty much been, the budget's been at an amount that almost everyone kind of gets to, but we try to at least make sure to kind of make sure that they're all helping at least multiple departments or multiple people in a department, or make sure that it's can be used for possibly a learning community later, or something that they can bring back and tell other people about as well, so. But yeah, it's kind of each year there's more requests, so I don't know how long it'll be like that. I mean, everything kind of got shut down a few years ago. I don't really know what was going on, but less requests were coming through, and then now they're kind of opening back up, so we'll see. But as of now, it's kind of just been at least one a month for us, so.
Anything else? Anyone have any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move right on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to set out?
I'd like to set out D.
D as in,
rights, fine art building.
okay, we have item D. Are there any others?
Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda, items A, B, C.
Have a motion made to approve items A, B, and C. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Now we'll move on to item D. Naming of the rights of the Fine Arts Auditorium. Dr. Rudy, you want to present that?
Absolutely, my pleasure. This past year, we had put in a naming rights policy, never have really addressed this formally through a process or policy at the college. And from this, I put criteria in place there for naming rights. So naming rights can come from financial contributions, it can come from time spent in service to the college. There's criteria that we spell out. This particular request is coming before you for approval has followed our process up until this point. So by policy, we have the college council review these requests as they come in and approve them prior to coming to the board. I am excited about this particular request. For over the past year, we have been working, we being Scott Kudrowski in advancement and administration, working with KCB Bank to look at how we can together further the improvements that we have been making and started within the Fine Arts Auditorium. Over the last 2 years, we've made significant improvements in replacing the seating, aesthetically doing carpet painting. This past summer, replacing lighting and sound. But there are still significant upgrades to be made as we go forward. And so through this gift from KCB Bank, been working with them through this contribution for naming rights on the Fine Arts Auditorium. And I want to clarify that this request is for the auditorium to be renamed as KCB Bank Auditorium at Pauline Joyce Fine Arts Building. So this would be, again, in accordance with our policy. We state that the financial contributions, and we spell out the levels, but the levels have to have at least 20% received at the college before we bring the naming rights forward. At this point, we have secured 50% of the pledge on the naming rights. And it is our recommendation, based upon the strong advocacy and support that KCB has to this college, as well as their financial gift to the college, that we rename the auditorium KCB Bank Auditorium.
How will that be designated? Like plaque that we have here for the,
So there will actually be there's signage that will be above both doors. That'll say KCB Bank Auditorium, and then we'll look at having a placard that's on the sidewall that denotes the time frame in which it was named.
will that be up again for a year, like the endowment room?
This will be in perpetuity as long as the Fine Arts Auditorium is in place.
Any more questions? Marilyn, you got any questions? Beth? Bob? Okay, the recommended board action is to recommend approval to the name of the Fine Arts Auditorium, KCB Bank Fine Arts Auditorium. I would entertain a motion to approve that recommendation.
I move that we approve consent agenda D, naming rights, fine arts building.
Have a motion made to approve. Is there a second?
I'd second.
Motion made to approve. Second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
She is here.
Aye, Shanda. Sorry, didn't notice you. Motion,
I'm here. We're just still in the car, so I thought I'd keep y'all from getting car sick and keep my camera off.
moving right along. We're ready to go to the confirmation of monitoring reports. Marilyn, I'll turn this over to you.
Starting on page 37, workforce development will be responsive to the community economic development and employer needs. There's several pages, well, I guess there's only 2 pages of this information. I'll let you review it and see if you have any questions.
I'm assuming that we have all had opportunity to review this. Does anyone have any questions that Marilyn can shed some light on for us? Well, then are we ready to move on to the next one, Marilyn?
Work preparedness, students will be prepared for success in the workplace. I'm on page 39. Students will have the skills and knowledge required for successful entry into the workplace. Students will have discipline and collaborative skills necessary to be successful in the workplace and have exposure to relevant work ethics. Students will have the skills and knowledge necessary to maintain, advance, or change their employment or occupation.
As I read these sometimes, and I don't think there's a better way to put it, but when it says will have, I'm not really sure I understand that, other than having it understood that they are giving the opportunity to have the skills and knowledge, discipline, and I'm not recommending there's going to be anything different, because I think we all really understand what we're saying is that we're going to be giving the students the skills, or we're providing it to them. If they don't grab them and use them, then that's, I guess, their loss. But that's the only comment I would have on this. Anyone else have any comments?
I think as I interpret it, that's what they're here for, is to get those skills. And when they finish the program, we're assuming they will have the skills to be successful. That's my interpretation.
they've been given the opportunity to have them
And they will have them if they complete.
if they took it, if it took.
One of the assumptions that's kind of baked in there is that um and it becomes part of our assessment process that students should not be completing successfully if they have not demonstrated them. And so it's certainly taught, reinforced, and then assessed on their way out the door. And then some of the numbers that are in the report show from Perkins data what that looks like when they're leaving us. But understood your point.
So what you're saying, if they pass it, they've got them. And we have determined whether they've passed or not.
Yes.
I believe every technical program other than criminal justice is successful in getting these people out to the workforce. If they're looking to go into law enforcement, they can't start till they're 21. So in a couple of years there that they have to, might forget some of these skills, but we do teach them.
I thought they could not go to the academy until they were 21.
They can't get hired as a police officer unless they have, now the Garden City has a police service aide, which will hire them, train them, and when they turn 21, they'll send them to the academy. So that kind of, from Perkins stats, criminal justice is always falling behind because of that. You know, they're not considered completers because they don't get a job in law enforcement because they're not 21.
Variable, it's not in control.
Yeah.
I'm assuming everyone's in agreement with leaving it as it is.
I had a question, Dr. Malone, on page 43. Talking about the concentrators and the information presented. Could you explain how the data was calculated?
Yes. This data comes from Perkins follow-up reporting. So it's portions of data that are pulled by our IR office and then worked on with the tech ed department for federal grant reporting. So are you looking at number one there, number one?
Well, for example, the data in the table, it talks about 2022, there's 356 concentrators, but we have 367 completers, and it shows a 97% rate. Those numbers don't make sense. The only thing I can think of is that the cohort grows somehow through the years.
So there are the numbers aren't they aren't linear in terms of the 356 and the 367 equaling 97. So that the second column there, the CTE concentrators, that's a separate number than completed the program of study. If that makes any sense. A concentrator, and I'm going to mess up the official definition now that you're asking, but a concentrator has to do with how many credit hours the student is taking in a pathway. And so that it's a way, the completer then is a student who's completed the pathway.
Right.
So it's sort of, there are 356 concentrators separately, 367 completed an exit point. And then 97% of those, the completers are either employed or continuing their education. Does that make sense? So the chart is a little misleading. You would expect the 97% to be some sort of calculation,
Right.
and it's not. That's not how that one's pulled. So I appreciate the question.
That goes on for the rest of the tables presented too. Yeah.
Are there any more questions? No one has any suggestions for change or anything? Moving right along, Marilyn.
Page 45, general executive constraints. The president reported on Number 10, the president shall not fail to ensure a safe and healthy environment on the campus. And he has an extensive report about the actions that the various programs are taking to promote safety. I think it's pretty. Well, I think it's wonderful.
I don't know if we could expect it to be much better.
One of the things, as we're looking through, as we're looking through and talking about safe and healthy campus, felt like this would be kind of an opportune time, and in talking with Leonard yesterday, asked for an opportunity to have Chief Dozier just talk and update about some of the initiatives that are happening, some of the new trainings that will be forthcoming, just in developing action plans for a safe campus. I think a lot of times we get lost and we put things down in words there, but sometimes better just to talk through and let you know some of the new action steps and things that he's implementing and working with several employee groups on campus to be able to put into action here as well. So, Chief Dozier.
Good evening. Hi. Hi. So before I get into that, I'd like to announce a new initiative we're starting. We'll actually have the grand opening in about 2 weeks. We've established a substation in the Res Life area. So it's just south of where the director lives. Maintenance has done a great job of painting the room. It looks very professional, clean the carpet. We've got a desk in there. And the plans are to have it personnel in that office space for the rest of the semester, at least a few times a week in the evening hours. Now, our main mission with this assignment isn't to like catch people doing things, although that may happen. But it's more of being a resource and being an ambassador for safety and pushing out safety initiatives in a way, like as an example, Family Crisis and Campus Police partnered a few months ago through marketing, put out some information about bystander intervention. So we would push that out in just conversations, not necessarily here's a pamphlet, but just have a conversation about what it is and consent, things of that nature. So we're excited about that.
Rodney,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to interrupt you. Can you explain bystander intervention?
Yeah, a bystander intervention is a term. I don't know who came up with the phrase, but it's encouraging folks of any age to intervene if you see that a relationship, red flags in a relationship, whether it's sexual in nature or it's relationship violence. And it's as simple as, let's say there's a party in a location and you think one of your friends has had too much to drink and maybe a partner is upset with them. It's going in and being creative, diffusing the situation, de-escalating it, maybe separating them and just getting the person either to safety or having a discussion on the side. The more severe would be more on like there's actually violence getting ready to occur and then somebody intervenes, and whether it's direct or indirect, and just take some kind of action. And in the end, if you see something, say something. So even if you don't intervene, folks contact campus or the police department in the city. So the safety initiatives, Dr. Ruda, speaking of, in December, we will have our first campus drill for armed intruders. So we've had scenario-based training up to this point. I'm going back years. We've had online training for employees that's been offered. We probably have maybe close to 200 that have been trained. What this is it's a walkthrough. The administration and I have met 2 or 3 times about the issue, but in December, I believe it's the 12th, we will have a situation where our building emergency leaders will check exterior doors to make sure they're locked, like a soft lockdown. We do that normally. With our Gallagher app, we just want to make sure all those are secure. We make an announcement over our emergency radio, encouraging all employees or letting all employees know that this drill. I'll give some facts for the situation that they can use for reference, then we're asking actually, Dr. Ruda's directing all employees to either go to a room, an office, or a classroom where there's more than just you, where you can have a discussion or conversation. Whoever you find yourself with at this time, a discussion will ensue for 10 minutes. And what we're looking for is some people have been trained with Alice, our alert, lockdown, and evaluate. There's an Alice Training Institute, and that's a whole other conversation. So they know the safest thing to do with any armed intruder is evacuate if you can safely. It doesn't matter if you're at the college or Dillon's or Walmart, wherever you're at, that's the safest thing to do. So people that are trained are gonna have an idea what to do. Folks that haven't been trained or new to college or chose not to take the training, they may not know exactly what to do. So we want to identify all those points. Second part of it is identifying areas where we need improvement with just the structure of the office, classroom. Are there materials out there or equipment that we can purchase through the college to make a classroom safer, so it's easier to lock down, things of that nature? And then finally, what are we doing right? What are some of the good things that we're talked about? What we could do, what we're doing that we can encourage others to do. So at the end of the 10 minutes, in each building, they will meet up in one location for, it's a military style debrief. And what they'll do is they'll talk about things. One person will be designated as a note taker in each of the buildings. And then they will forward that information. I'll compile it. I'll send it to Dr. Ruda. And then the cabinet will look at that and Dr. Ruda will look at that. And then we'll have information to go maybe take the next step. My plan is within 5 years, be in a position to where we get folks trained. And it's doable, but it's difficult because we have a turnover, so you have to get those folks up to speed. But within 5 years, my hopes are to have a large scale summer with the GCPD and all the first responders responding and training out here. It's good for them, it's good for us. Just on a short note with that, I participated in the planning process for the drill at the high school that was conducted years ago. And we met for about a year before we can actually go forward with that. And that was a massive drill. And I would like to see something similar here, but we have to get to that. So it's just a constant thing. So we're just taking the next step. The other thing that I'm excited about is we still have spots open for any employee that wants to take on Alice Online training, but we're offering it to students. So just about a week ago, I met with SGA and spoke to the students there, asking them to relay the information to their groups. Then also I've been invited into a couple college skills class. I thought it was college success, but I think it's college skills class to talk about Alice training and then other safety initiatives. But I've been invited back, which means I must have hit a couple good notes. So it'll be a different group of people, but with the instructor, there's been some ideas shared where I'm planning to meet with Halo in the very near future, probably next week. And then also, she asked about the feasibility of getting the information out to online students, which I'm excited about. So basically what we're trying to do is educate students now with our employees, getting everybody trained up. They can take this information with them once they graduate from Garden City Community College, and it just meets our mission like hand in glove. So we're pretty excited about that. Do you have any questions about any of that?
You know, you and I talked one time and I asked you about some of this and you said, well, they have Alice.
Yeah,
Tell me again,
okay.
what all Alice,
Yeah.
it's the letters, what they stand for.
Okay, so the A is alert. So like our emergency radios would be an alert. If we had a situation on campus, sometimes I'll put, like, there's been shots fired in over the past years. I'll get on the radio on occasion. Campus police will all building emergency leader stand by for message. And then we put it out there. So the A is alert. So it could be through the radio system. It could be through just word of mouth of phones, which I found out in another emergency that students are getting emergency information sometimes faster than first responders. And then also the gunshot itself or the noise itself, screaming, those kind of things. So alert. The L lockdown, anytime you have lockdown, Alice, it's barricade. So we have soft lockdowns, which doesn't include a barricade, and that's where we secure our outer doors with the Gallagher app. But the lockdown, like we're all in the classroom, we would be barricading that door as well, and that's taught through the course. Informed. So if the way I teach it with some of the students is if we're in a classroom, I'm taking charge, even, let's say I'm not a police, I'm taking charge, and I'm assigning people to barricade. I'm assigning somebody to inform, contact 911, get on the radio, let them know what you hear, where the suspect is, if it's in our building. Because as first responders, we'd like to know that. It makes our job a little easier about pinpointing where that threat is coming from. So just informing. Counter, the big one, I'll get that in a second. And then evacuate. So evacuate's always the safest thing you can do. Statistics show that if there's a shooter, it's not usually spread out within like a large area. It's smaller, it can happen, but the safest thing to do is evacuate. So we've set up areas off campus as safe havens for people to go to in the winter. The First Assembly of God Church, St. Dominic's Church, and the Clarity Inn. So evacuate's always the safest thing you could do in an armed intruder situation. Now counter, just a fancy way of saying fight back, do something. So I sat through some case studies and some training that I went through, and the statistics show that if you take some kind of action, moving, throwing objects, distractions, or fighting back, your survival chances go up. If you do nothing, your chances go down. So what I encourage folks to do, like even in this room, I respectfully request that you make that decision today on what you would do, not at the time of the emergency, because that's too late. And you're wasting seconds just thinking about it and thinking, oh my gosh, this is happening. Make that commitment today of what you're going to do and then go through it. The great thing about Alice too is the Garden City Police Department trains on it at the high school. They train local businesses here. Holcomb, I believe, is doing the same thing through the sheriff's office, and then we do it. So there's a lot of folks training in those areas, but that's what it stands for.
With all of what's going on in the world today and the things I see on the news of demonstrations on different campuses, I'm certain that you and Dr. Ruda have sat down and talked about what we will do if we have a demonstration on campus that could erupt. But am I correct that you guys are ahead of me and you've already thought about those things?
We have in the past.
Yeah.
We've talked about issues just like that for different reasons. I know that there's been information pushed out that I pay attention to that talks about the state of the United States and briefings there in different areas. Mainly your larger cities are experiencing a lot of those problems. We're not seeing much in our state that I'm aware of, but those are things that we talk about. We've had situations where we expected demonstrations to occur and we were actually walking through it or talking through it. But and then our local law enforcement, as those things happen, we haven't been, I'm usually invited in and we have a meeting about that. The local emergency planning committee, there's a meeting, I believe, tomorrow or the next day, and I'll be headed to that. And there may be discussions there about that. And then we share information through that. But
just as a point of reference there though, too, I mean, at the college, we do have a policy on peaceful assembly that designates where, when, how, that the protest can be requested and where that, where they will be allowed at, and the timeframes will be allowed from there as well. So we do have policy that dictates how it is that, that will be followed here on the college campus as well.
But Chief Joser and his people will be monitoring that wherever it is. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
and if something like that was triggered, we would work very closely with local law enforcement.
And I know just because we're not seeing a lot of that in our state today, I'm comfortable with where we are with you folks, that we are ready in case it does happen.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of situations that we with campus police, we think about. And we talk about amongst ourselves just to make sure we're ready on different issues. God willing, we will never have an incident like that happening here, but I believe we're ready. The next step, like I said, is to get everybody else where we need to be. I'm very pleased that Dr. Ruda, in the initial conversations, we talked about this. It's not a volunteer thing. He's making it mandatory that we participate. So there'll be no students involved, but just employees, and that's huge. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, Chief, you mentioned 5 years from now, you're going to have a.
That's my goal. If it happens sooner, that'd be
large-
great.
Large scale mock, armed person coming, seems like 5 years is too long.
Well, right, but we've, if we can do it sooner, great, but we've got to take care of these steps would be necessary to prepare our folks for that.
Right.
But just the planning process itself, like I said, it takes about a year. But you're right, if we can do it sooner. I'm giving myself a little cushion with that, but yeah, that you're right. I would agree.
And that is the plan to try to get done sooner. We're taking these steps. Even before this point, Ronnie has went around to the different buildings and have done some prep. And
Right.
visited with everybody in that building. And what some barriers do we see? What do we need to put at this point of where we're at? And we purchased some things.
Right.
To make sure we're building on that continued
Right.
safety. The thing with this campus is we got buildings spread out,
Right.
with no one entry, no that's.
Right.
And that's what.
Yeah, so with that, I have to actually thank Officer Scrivener back here. He's helped out tremendously. We talked about that. We offered that and we had a handful of buildings and leaders take us up on that. And he's actually gone in with other officers. And they conducted those assessments. I met with the library folks and I could see that there's things that need to be done. I took it to a level and then I asked Robert to step in and take much more time with those folks to get us to where we need to be with some of the recommendations and suggestions. So we are doing that and we put that out there usually through when Dr. Ruda has his in-service, there's usually like at least 5 minutes to talk about safety and we offer those things then. But the thing that excites me about this, I'm a military guy. So a lot of things in the military, it's not volunteer, you kind of voluntold. And in this case, with our drill in December, everyone will participate.
One other point of reference there. So Rodney had mentioned or alluded to what's called Bell individuals on campus. That's an acronym for Building Emergency Leaders. And so essentially what their role is that every building has a designated building emergency leader. They're the ones that are listening in on the radios on a daily basis, have the radios with them. If there were things that come across on the radios there, they're specific to their buildings or the campus at large. They're the individuals that have been trained in order to start into action the protocols there for those buildings. So he's done a tremendous job in really bringing along that group of individuals. We do weekly tests of the radio systems. So there's weekly tests that go out there from his office there just to check and ensure that individuals have the radios. If they don't, we're following up and trying to find out why or what's the reasoning behind it there. So there's checks and balances that are being built in there just on accountability as well.
Another thing that I'm excited about, I appreciate is Dr. Ruda and the cabinet have actually started paying these building emergency leaders. Some of them have been with the program since we started back in like 2015. And there's a stipend that they get twice a year, which is huge. And some of these folks are all in and the new ones are training up, but we have at least with Dr. Ruda and his administration, counting everyone, we have well over 50 people that are involved in that system. So, and we reach out to the different buildings, do our radio checks. So it takes some time to do that, but the primaries and the alternates are getting paid, which is good because they buy in even more now. So.
And I really like what I'm seeing and hearing is with all of this, we're always prepared.
Yeah.
We're always ready, even though it might be real quick and a surprise, we're prepared for it.
Right.
That's the way we were trained.
Just the last piece that I would allude to there, just as some new developments there as well. The chief can elaborate there, but we do have one of our employees that was hired as a security officer that has been accepted into the academy and is actually at the academy now. Then will come back to campus as a police officer. And, so I think that's taking some additional steps for training that comes back and benefits the campus at large also.
He's scheduled to graduate in February, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but what we're hoping is that we can expand our coverage out even further and have more coverage. We're still not 7. And that's another thing maybe we can do within 5 years. But we worked really, really hard, and Dr. Ruta's worked really hard to get us to where we're at. But Mason, with the police experience, training, it takes us up. But I don't want to mislead you either. Yeah, we're prepared, but anything can happen, and it's kind of like controlled chaos when this does. But we're doing everything we can to make sure we're ready.
Thank you for your time, Rodney. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't know if the rest of this board has seen the little report that you gave out. I wish we would have had some here tonight. The green sheets that, for the last 3 years, the incidents and that y'all have covered, and I guess it's a status of what you have accomplished. What did we call that?
It's called the Clarity Report. So
Yeah.
it's our annual notification to the campus on incidents and the annual report.
It's good information for us on the board to have if someone ever comes up and wants to quiz us on it. And we have this that we can put out in front of them. Here's what's happened and here's the status of where we are. And it's pretty damn good shape.
And it is accurate.
I don't know if you've seen it, but they're available.
I just want to say I've known Chief Dozer for, when did you start PD? Since 1988, and there's no better person to implement and train people. He started the SWAT team down there. He started the bicycle unit. What else did you start? And the bicycle unit was a group of misfits, and he was able to control them. They were very aggressive, but he was able to control them. Like I said, he's the best person for this position.
Moving right along, I think Marilyn is the next one, the board job description.
Yeah, we're reviewing monitoring reports from what was we're reviewing the language of the policies number 7 and number 8. I had Jody give you a copy of a summary of the board plan goals that we talked about last month for 23 to 24 in front of you. And I would like to suggest that on number 3, board self-assessment, we talked about that we will do our next board assessment in 2024, and we'll continue our efforts on orientation of new board members and continue with ongoing trustee education. I would like to suggest that we plan to have an ACCT representative to facilitate a board retreat next year so that we can talk about that information in the self-assessment and review the orientation of new trustees and let that person give the new board members a little flavor of ACCT information.
And you're suggesting that in June of 2024, Marilyn? Yeah. Any comments from any of us? I think it's a good idea. I don't think we need to back off of always being prepared.
In regards to the language of number 7 and number 8, I didn't have any suggestions for changes unless anybody else says.
The only thing that I would bring up on number 7, and it's just for the board to mull over and think about, But in the progression of diversity, equity, and inclusion, there is change, and we're making the change here on campus reflective with our DEI committee, to where it will also be inclusive of belongingness. And so it'll be a DEIB committee. There is a policy statement in reference to what belongingness entails, but many of the activities that we have coordinated through our committees here on campus will now start to envelop belongingness into a lot of what it is that we're doing there as well. And it's things, you know, as we were at the ACCT conference there's a lot of conversations and discussions there towards the inclusion of belongingness there. So I would just encourage the board to consider that as we go forward as well.
You got any suggestions?
I do.
Good.
do.
We hear
We
them.
can- Yeah, we can bring them there. I mean, so we do have, you know, as I said, we do have policy statements, and then we also do have a description that coincides with belongingness, very similar to what you have in your policy statements for diversity, equity, and inclusion separately. And so I could bring those and share those at the next meeting if that's acceptable.
Make us more compatible. Is that what we're talking about?
I
More
think
alike?
Yeah, it brings us into alignment with a lot of what we're seeing at the national level and is in alignment with what we are moving towards here on the campus already.
I would add to that in that, one of the educational offerings I attended at the national conference talked about that, you know, DEI can be kind of vague and hard to understand, but this particular college focused in on belonging. And they said that making your campus a place where people belong makes it feel better, makes it feel more comforting. It's like a home away from home. And I think that's what I interpret as belonging means. So I agree. It's just more tangible when we're talking about DEI. So I would welcome the information, Dr. Ruda.
When you refer to people belonging, Marilyn, are you referring to students or community members or anybody that wants to feel they belong?
Primarily students,
Okay.
primarily.
Well, I would hope, I agree with you. I would hope that all of our students feel like they belong here.
It can be hard.
Yes.
It can be
Yeah.
hard. There are things that can make you feel out of place. So
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think that's definitely something I can bring that next month. We can have some ongoing conversation and look at that there as part of this policy.
So do we want to take the time and maybe next month set a time, a date in June of doing this, having this, well, maybe just a retreat where we have somebody come in and review and help us out, the ACCT rep? Is that what we would want to do? Maybe next week, set a time in June, or is that looking too far ahead?
I think you're kind of getting a little ahead of yourself. I think the board chair and President Rudick has worked on that to find a.
And you will have a
Okay.
new, next year you will have a new ACCT rep.
Okay, well, we'll just kind of hold that for a while and
Yeah, I think it needs to
work
be.
towards that goal.
Yeah, needs to be in line with after our self-board assessment
Okay,
and by giving the new members time to get their feet wet and then give them information from ACCT.
But now it's called ACC. No T.
No, it's ACCT,
It is.
but the
Still is?
Kansas.
Kansas went to ACC. I apologize, I forgot.
Is that where are we done there, Marilyn?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. The next thing in the agenda here is a strategic plan report.
Open comments,
I'm sorry.
skip over open comments and the president's report.
Oh, well, I guess I did. I just going on down to the you want open comments from the public? Do we have any requests for that?
On the,
Have we had any open comment requests? So we didn't skip much.
President.
so just a point of clarification as we were reviewing the monitoring reports from last month,
Gotcha.
are we good with the definition on endowment and BAA? We'd given those reports last month. I just want to make sure there's not any changes to language or anything, and we're solid on how we have that
Right.
definition.
We're reviewing the whole. I think we're just 7 and 8. I thought it was just 7 and 8.
It was six and seven. We had seven and, yeah, we had 7 and 8, and then we had six, we had the report from endowment and BAA last month.
Okay,
Not necessarily reviewing, just wanted to verify we're still.
right, okay. So Dr. Ruth is talking about number 6. If you recall, we had reports on number 6 last month from BAA via trustee rep and endowment via trustee Smith. So for number 6, did anyone have any changes they would like to make to the language?
Just as long as we keep our eye on it, conduct.
I mean, do we need to change the endowment since we restructured it a little bit?
I would say no, just because it's still a good accountability mechanism there to have for the report back to the board. So even though the employee structure is now through the college, I think it's still an auxiliary function of the college itself, and would be good just to have that checks and balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is we're going to leave it alone. The board shall.
Correct. And these two are monitored biannually,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you want to change that or just leave it the same as well. So keep it the same. I feel like since we started this system, there hasn't been issues that we didn't know about. So I
Correct.
feel like it's been successful. So I think we should just keep it the same.
I would too. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Does that answer?
Sure, I do. Just a few items to talk about there on some accomplishments by different programs and teams. Our meets judging team recently had success. Just wanted to congratulate meets judging team for winning the Beef Empire Days contest There were 40 individuals, 6 colleges and universities that competed this year. And this was the first time in the program's history that there was back-to-back wins from the Beef Empire days. We'll kind of walk, yeah, we'll just kind of let Dr. Malone walk you through this. So what you have here on the first several pages are key performance indicators that we have tied to our strategic plan. And you'll see the targets that we have set there for the individual objectives. And then corresponding over the last 4 years where we've came up there on each of these performance indicators. So we'll kind of go through and follow through that, and then subsequently following that, you will also have a review of our annual strategic plan report that highlights accomplishments from this past year, so objectives that have been completed, and that way you can see how it is that we are following the strategic plan and aligning to the work that's being done here at Garden City Community College. And then there's also a historical tracking of all of the different strategic initiatives that we have undergone and completed. And we keep a historical
Um, if you all remember back to the HLC trainings that we worked on, these meetings, the strategic plan is where we want to go, and the key performance indicators are how are we doing in terms of getting there. It's like checking in on your map. How many miles do you have left? If the mile on your GPS is increasing and not decreasing, you're probably going in the wrong direction. So many years ago now, a group of people on campus worked on applying key performance indicators to each area of the strategic plan. So you'll see on the report starting on page 57, they're organized by the strategic plan pillars. So we try to have at least more than one indicator for every area. And you can see that first objective, access, we have 3 indicators up on increasing opportunities and decreasing barriers. And we have our credit hours are slightly down. We're slightly down from fall 21 to fall 22. If we look at the next area, what I really want to do is just highlight a couple of areas where we have new data this year that we have not had in the past. So on page 58, objective 1.2, under engagement, how can we increase opportunities for academic and non-academic student enrichment and engagement? One new data set you have is key performance indicator 8. How many times did students visit faculty during office hours? This was something that for the 22-23 school year faculty implemented. Students use their Buster Biz app and they're asked to, more often than not, faculty participation is increasing, which is a great thing. They're asked to scan in when they get there. You might see some faculty have the scan in code as a sticker on their laptop because they might meet with students in their classroom, or they might ask the students to scan if they are over in the tutoring center. So there were 900 in that 22-23 year, 936 individual office hour visits, which I think the real number is probably higher than that, but I do think that's an impressive number. We have quite a few students using faculty in their office, visiting with them to get extra assistance, and I think that's a great thing. So we hope to see that number continue increase in the next year. One area that is also new, so we're still working on some KPIs toward the end in pillars 3 and 4, but if you look at page 61, objective 4.2, digital infrastructure, this is a new number, and it relates to security of institutional networks, computing resources. And so our IT department has developed or implemented a company that does what's called a phish-prone training. And so phishing is that idea that somebody can get you to reveal data that compromises your identity. We're on 61. So when they implemented this, the company does kind of they do a baseline training. And our number when we started was a 25.3. The industry standard is a 5.5. So we were much, much higher than a 5.5. And after that training and implementation, we're down to a 5.216. So we're better than industry standard. And I think that's a good indicator of, I think we've seen in other higher ed institutions across the country that when the IT infrastructure is not secure, the institution as a whole is not secure. So they do a great job on all of those things. It's actually we get like dummy phishing attempts in our email now where they try to get us to, and I've actually fallen victim to one. But so anyway, that's a cool. It was a very crafty one that I fell victim to, I will say. But anyway, I think these KPIs they're just a helpful measuring stick about how we're doing as an institution. I'm happy to stand for any questions that you have on the key performance indicators, or I'll do my best on any initiative that's listed.
Are you? Dr. Malone, are you at the end of your report on that? Well, I'm quite sure I have questions. I just don't know what they are right now. Are we ready then to go on to, where I'm supposed to be? The math department program review.
My name. Okay. My name is Nicole Dick. I'm a math teacher, now science division chair. And I will talk about a few things that I thought were fairly interesting in our review. There's lots of numbers made, so keep in mind that the math department is much more like a service department. We don't have like a lot of program majors in our department, like much smaller. We do service, so we have lots of kids in our classes. The other thing to keep in mind is over the past 5 years, the math and pre-engineering programs have been essentially the same. So a lot of the reason that we have any other than 1s and 2s for math, pre-engineering is tied in. So there was a lot of overlap between those two programs there. We don't have a lot of math specific majors there. But one of the tables in the book or in the packet talks about this program needed to be enrolled. Over the past 5 years, we've had about 30 pre-engineering math people every year. So a total of about 157. A much smaller, lower number than that actually go through and finish. I think we've had 30 students finish either math or pre-engineering program over the last 5 years. One thing that I think is really interesting about that is more than half of our students enrolled in math and pre-engineering are female, but when they finish, more than half of them are male. I don't really know how to explain that, but that's something that I think just as a math program, pre-engineering program, we should go through and look at there. But yeah, it's interesting to see like more than half our students are female, but they're not finishing. That was fairly interesting when we were at that. Other things that I thought were interesting in the numbers.
What page you on?
Oh, I don't know. My page numbers are different than yours because I just have my math program pages. So for in the view itself, which I think your pages might be double numbered, on page 22 of like the math program review, not your whole packet. Sure, good idea.
Those are the numbers
Table
at the top of the
D,
page.
table D8. Table D8. Thank you.
Well, it's at the top of the page too, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that table D8 just goes through and shows our completers. So that's what I'm showing there. And it kind of got split on 2 pages, but that's the one where you can see most of the completers are males. And then a few pages before that, there's a table that shows just in total enrolled. And that's where you can see that most of them are females. So table D1 compared to D8. I don't remember which table it is, but our ethnicity breakdown pretty much follows what you expect in Garden City. The percents of people enrolled in our program basically mimic what it has in Garden City. I can find the table number if you give me just a moment.
What's the highest level of math that you teach here?
Good question. So that's actually in here too.
Because I remember I had trouble with Algebra 1. I didn't even know what Algebra 2 was.
So on page 16, section C1, it lists all of our required program classes. A math major would take Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, and then hopefully differential equations. We don't require differential equations just because a lot of our students come in needing prerequisites, and that puts them beyond 2 years worth of math classes. But we do teach up to differential equations. Every spring we offer that class, either us here on campus or we work with Seward County Community College. And so like next spring, Seward County Community College will teach that class and Zoom our students in. this past spring, I taught the class and then they Zoomed in. So we kind of split responsibility for that to make sure everyone has a chance to take it. So up through differential equations is what we teach.
Do you have smarter teachers at Seward County?
Oh, Bonnie's great. She's wonderful too. We work with Bonnie all the time and I like her. The other thing I was going to talk about, there's lots of stuff in there, but back towards the goals. So from our last program review, we really didn't set very high goals for ourselves, but a few of them we did achieve. One of them was to go back and readdress our PLOs. Our program outcomes were kind of old fashioned and there was a lot of them. So we went through and readdressed our PLOs, our program outcomes, to make them more direct and a shorter list. And I don't have them with me, but we did that part. And we also noticed that our developmental classes, which a lot of what we teach is developmental classes right now, that for the really lower level ones, we just weren't being able to reach the students as well. And so we requested smaller class caps and we did that too. So we have a slightly smaller class cap for our lowest level class. And then in looking at our new goals that we set for ourselves, they're fine, but one of them stuck out to me as something we will definitely focus on and made me think that I wish we had more information when we were writing these. So on page 33 of our goal sheet there, the goal listed under section C, quality of curriculum and student learning, we talked about putting more work into companion classes. And that is something that we started doing before, but we will definitely implement now. So one of the new things that comes from Kansas, from the state down, is that all math programs will offer companion classes, which essentially is students will take college algebra, and if they don't have the pre-knowledge that they need for it, they'll take like a companion class with it. And so the way we've been structuring it so far, last spring and this fall, we're trying it, is we offer regular college algebra 3 days a week or 2 days a week, depending on how it's structured, but say 3 days a week. And the other 2 days a week, a cohort of students that needs the additional support meets with the teacher for an hour each day. And that's where we hopefully get them caught up with the stuff that they might be missing from before. And that is something that we will continue to do. The state says we have to. We think there's great reason to go through and do it. So we will be doing more of that. So that's one of our goals, but we'll kind of really emphasize that one. And then another thing that's not written as a goal, but has a big impact on what our program is going to do moving forward, also coming from Kansas State down, is right now college algebra is like the lowest level math class that students need to finish an associate's degree, and that's going to change. So it'll move to either college algebra or fundamentals of statistics, which we also offer, or a class that we currently don't offer, a contemporary math class. So our math department will focus a lot on building that class too. So in conjunction with all the companion stuff and with these new classes, we will look a lot different next program review because we'll have a couple big changes to do. So, questions?
Any questions? Bob?
With all of those classes being taught, I mean, you have enough teachers to,
So yes, we definitely have enough teachers. One of the tables, I don't remember what it is, but it goes through and looks at class size. Since COVID, our class size numbers have been down. So I definitely know we have enough teachers, because if we didn't, we'd be able to kind of offer less sections of some to be able to allow for the new sections that we don't need. So yeah, I think that we're still sitting good. We've got 5 full-time math teachers. We've got a handful of good adjuncts kind of around campus for night classes and day classes. And I think we're doing pretty good with that right now.
very good.
Well, I guess it's thank you time.
Thanks.
We'll go on to the art department review.
Hello, Dr. Ruda requested that we do a 45-minute program on our program review, but the dancers couldn't make it. So we're going to do an abbreviated. Yeah, I brought Mikey instead. So we're going to focus on, from the review, our strengths, where we feel we need improvement, and takeaways from the overall process. So our strengths in our program is we have an excellent and qualified faculty, and we are reported from our alumni that they are prepared to succeed when they move on to transfer. We have many artists and educators working professionally within the community and abroad. In fact, this month, I believe Armando Miniaras was featured as our alumni, what is it? The alumni spotlight. He is internationally known as an artist, and really fantastic example of what this college does for folks who have not been in our country for very long. Our capstone course, and we're really proud of that course, provides professional development for our students well above level. And we have managed, one of the goals that we had from our last program review was to increase our our non-traditional student population, and we have done that. And that having those people in our course serves our program greatly, because it adds a kind of a diversity, I think, is really an excellent model for what the arts can do for a person as they move on and transition in life.
So yeah, as Brian said, our non-traditional students make up a percentage of the art classes that we have. And so those non-traditional students range from the ages of high school students in the summer that are looking to take extra humanities or ceramics classes to, I've had seniors into their 80s taking classes, and they make up probably about a quarter of our students at some points. And so that builds a sense of community that is, I think, a little different than a lot of programs here, where we have these older students that come in. I think Mr. McComb's got a night class where he has students drive in from Lakin, Scott City, and maybe Ulysses sometimes, all to come in and take ceramics here. So it acts like a regional hub for a lot of these cultural outlet that you might not get other places. Our art club, we volunteer with Garden City Arts and do some other things as well with that and along the community. Brian and I serve on a couple different boards. I'm the president of the Garden City Arts right now. And so we try to reach out and involve ourselves inside of the community in the region and do a lot of that civic duty that we're doing. I just got done speaking at the State of the Art Symposium in Kansas with the, Kansas Arts and Industry, or Kansas Creative Arts and Industries group there, the state of Kansas, and meeting a lot of people from around the state and talking about what we're doing with our community and helping facilitate things like the arch on 9th Street, the sculpture that Armando Mears just got commissioned to do from the city, is something that's excellent for us to do as a department and have our students make mock-ups and help with that decision making. It's a pretty cool hands-on thing that we get that we have at the community college. The Mercer Gallery, we showcase about 8 to 9 visiting artists a year, and they come in and it works as a great opportunity for our students in Southwest Kansas to reach out to artists that might be on the other side of the state, or other places like that. This month we have Fort Hays State Painting Department coming in. Next year we got a couple instructors coming in from WSU and other places. So it's a great opportunity for us to have some events for our students to interact with those professional artists and have them come recruit our students and offer them opportunities. And so a lot of times our students will travel on and get scholarships through meeting those instructors at those places.
Okay, now where do we find that we need improvement? One of the things that we're not happy with is our overall completion rate. We're trying to figure out currently what steps we can take to intervene with our students. We have a lot of there's a scaffolding of support here at Garden City Community College. It's here. It's just, are we doing enough as faculty, and are we getting our students where they can find help? And so we're doing that work now. We're used to doing it second semester, maybe third semester. We're trying to intervene earlier and earlier to try to discover where do our students need support and where do they need help, so that through that we hope we can increase our completion rate. And there's just a lot of opportunities there for us. We're just trying to build that out and figure out a way that we can, have every single student. I know we can't get that, but we want every single student to succeed and to go on. The other thing that we're working on is increasing our out-of-county enrollment. Through our process of requesting funds last year, we received an increase there. We're working now on getting some outreach to Lamar, Colorado, to Oberlin, Kansas, to Liberal, Kansas, so that we can increase that out-of-county student population. And our hope is that they will also live here on the dorms, live on campus, and that can just benefit overall the general cohort.
So yeah, as a department, we do a lot of recruiting, and so we go to the high school probably twice a year. We do live demos. We rotate a lot of the smaller high schools. We'll go to Holcomb, we'll go to Lakin, we'll go to these schools and spend the afternoon doing like a live painting or ceramics demo. They're always more interested in his ceramics than my painting. But it's a good way for us to get our hands in front of students and try to get them on campus. And, just like any humanities, there's a kind of a popularity shifts and change. We had a little bit of a decrease in student enrollment, but but just like anything, we had some seasoned veteran high school teachers retire, and then the other humanities became very popular at our local high school, and we've seen kind of things shift back and forth. There's an ebb and flow there, where drama became very popular at our high school, as we know, and then now I think there's a little bit more of an interest for the arts. So, there's kind of something that we had to respond to, and you'll see that in the numbers on our report. But there is also like some really great opportunities about finishing students, and we're working on capturing a lot of those students. And I think the new math initiative will help some of our art students come back and finish.
Yeah, that is a barrier for sure that we're seeing reduce. So one of our main barriers to both growth and to recruiting, we believe, is our facilities. And so our facilities are lacking both in space and functionality. They're outdated. This is well known. And so our administration is working very hard to improve that. And I think we're working on moving forward with that project. Our hope is that we would love to see a robust performing arts center, perhaps a multi-facility that can serve as a cultural regional hub. So that's something we hope to have happen soon. And I think we could sell naming rights to every single room there. Beth, if you're interested, after the meeting. So anyway, takeaways, just the whole, I think what I discovered, what Mikey and I talked about a great deal, is that we did not, look at your program review for a year or two, but and farther files away from you. And when we got that program review out, we realized not done its service. We should have been using that program review more consistently throughout every year. And it's my hope that with this current program review, we do that, and we use that program review as a living document instead of something that gets set down and kind of forgotten about. So it's currently sitting on my desk, and it's going to continue to be there, and hopefully not wind up under too many piles of other things. But the process is excellent, and we're working on making it more streamlined and more effective moving forward. So are there any questions?
The building across the street from Garden City Tire, did you folks do that? That sunflowers and all of this whole side of that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Carmen, yeah, place.
Yeah.
And then on the city building, I think there's,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
So the horse mural, that was a complete art club in-kind donation. And it was, art club wanted to do a mural, and we had someone who selected Linda Adams said, hey, I have a friend who's got a building that needs a mural. And so we went out there on probably the worst day because they started cutting the street up right by us. So as we had dust blowing in, and then of course it gets too cold in the shade, but we did what we could, and that was pretty good. I recently completed one, or I'm still working on finishing touches on one for the city of Garden City on the municipal court building, and had some students and was able to hire a handful of qualified students that would complete that. And
let's see, we have the work on the Sunset Cemetery that we're working with the city on currently. There's a couple of stones that need some additional paint on them. And then we're also working, is it Travel Authority? Is that correct? The truck stop. What?
Travel law.
Yeah, that truck stop north on US 50, and yeah. So we're working on a mural for them as well. So
Well, they just,
it's student involvement, and sometimes students aren't as involved as they think they can be. So that's always a challenge, getting a 19-year-old to do anything besides play video games and sleep.
I really
sometimes a challenge.
appreciate them. To me, it just highlighted the area. And I think those are the kinds of things that I noticed that a lot of the people
That's great.
see it, but they don't really know who did that.
Right. So I don't know, maybe we need to do
write our name on it.
yeah.
I think we meant to go refinish and paint.
Yeah.
As an artist, it's hard to call something done and like to walk away as a finished thing. And so I think in hindsight, we were like, oh, we're still gonna go repaint that sunflower and that one thing and this other thing, and yet to go out there. But I know that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of need in this community for that. And we got a lot of good students that are hopefully gonna come back, and we can create some opportunities for that. I know that Kansas Creative Arts or Arts and Industries Commission is looking to supply a lot of grant money out here in Western Kansas that they haven't done in the past. I think they've looked at their numbers and realized there's a lot of opportunity for those grants for artists out here. that they've been missing in the past, and that's because frankly, not a lot of people were applying, and I think we're working together to help them locate artists and facilities and buildings and people to apply for those and get some of that, and bring some of that to Southwest Kansas.
But, you know, as you used to drive into Dodge City, they had all of these cowboys up there, metal art, I think. Is that what you call that?
Yeah.
You're capable of doing that also?
We could facilitate it, we could get it figured out.
We got
If you got the money, Leonard, I'll do anything you want.
we've got a welding department. over
We're
there.
easy, yeah.
Do they have laser cutters, Coach?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we could
President?
definitely work something out.
Okay.
If you got a plan, we've got a,
Well,
we can
I've wasted
facilitate.
enough of your time. I'm sorry. Thank you
I love
for
the
what
idea.
you do.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
yeah, I have just a couple comments. So Dr. McCallum, Dr. Knudsen, I love your department. I love the interaction that you have with your alumni and with the high school students. I think it's very interactive. I am a little nervous about a comment that you put in your report, and I just want you to speak to it. The art department has small, outdated, and crumbling facilities that are of substantial health and safety concerns to faculty, students, and community members who enter the Pauline Joyce Fine Arts Building. Tell me what you meant by that.
Yeah, so if you would attend a course when I've got all my students in there, we're literally tripping over each other. It's somewhat of a miracle that we haven't had any difficult falls or anything like that. It's just kind of too small for the space, really. And so we're stuck with it. We can't increase enrollment because our facility is too small. When all the students show up, it's almost hard to work, right? So that's really what's happening. So we need, and everyone's aware of it. So
we have an issue where there's a two-dimensional art room or painting and drawing studio that in between it is the kiln room and the clay mixing room. So as you make a painting or make a drawing, there's constantly clay needing to be recycled and pushed through this room and come in and out of there, which is a very unique to us situation. I don't think there's any other place like that in the world that's doing that, meaning that there's a lot of dust involved, and dust usually requires a lot of ventilation. Most of those clay mixing facilities and kiln rooms are generally outside, under not even an indoor thing. And so coming into a space, you'll often find a lot of that stuff, and you'll find that paint dries a lot faster when there's a layer of ceramic dust and stuff that goes on top of that.
Right.
And as you know, art studios have been around for a very long time. They constantly kind of finding things that are new practices and best ways. And so something that was not a problem 25, 30, 40 years ago, there's new understandings of, different research that comes out that makes it easier to identify some of the issues that may have been overlooked in the past.
Is there something that we need to investigate for health reasons?
well, we can look into that in terms of specificity. There might be some filtration systems and things that we can put in. I think that there are some concerns with the state of the building itself and the age of it. And that anytime that we do any improvements there, we could wind up with additional, I don't know how to put it, additional liabilities. So we need to, think about that space as a space that we could vacate and enter into a new space. I think that's really the hope moving forward, so. Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, part of it there though too, I mean, and I would, I would echo this. I mean, I think when we say crumbling facilities, well, the building is not crumbling. The building is structurally sound. I mean, the safe and healthy, issues, I think, what they're addressing are things that are elements that are happening in the classroom, but we do have the fire department comes through annually and does inspections. We do have our insurance company that comes through and does liability and loss protection evaluation. And so items that are coming back to us there, we're not negligent on there. There have been no reports that have came back to us there that cite health or safety issues. So I think, part of this there is, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago where there were concerns about ventilation in the kiln room, that we went in and addressed. And, perhaps we need to go in and look at ways to be able to change around the classroom setting or how it is that we can best position it. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, this is one of the reasons why we're looking at the need for a new building, because we are out of space across most every discipline and major that we have. So I think it definitely gives merit to the need for additional class space and being able to have separation of the classes that are occurring, so you don't have them in one classroom. But I would I would argue that we have crumbling facilities or that there's
We feel safe showing up every day to work.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, I would say, if you're talking about things that maybe could be improved, the flooring is certainly falling apart and coming up, things like that. So there's some minor things. But again, there was the concern of, is it time to just move out of this space? And I think that's where we were a couple of years ago, and hopefully where we'll be again, So I think the cost and benefit of moving the space or moving out of the space is probably greater than trying to improve it where it currently is.
Yeah, I understand where.
Yeah.
What you
yeah.
were trying to say. It just made me nervous.
Right.
When you question the health and safety of
Right.
everybody walking through there. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that explanation.
Well, I suppose that from a standpoint of safety, if we were able to have courses that had 2 or 3 students in them, we would be totally safe, but we want to have more students, as many as want to be in there. It's just really hard. Sometimes it's super packed. When Mikey's got a completely full drawing room, it's hard to walk through there just because it's completely full. I wouldn't say it's dangerous unless you're not paying attention.
One more,
Hmm.
I have one more question. Sorry, it's okay. In your summary, you also talked about that you think it's time for a graphic designer,
Mm-hmm.
instructor, and that you have some equipment needs
Mm-hmm.
and some salary, requests or changes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask, have you made those proposals through the process?
Yeah, so some of that's going to be through negotiations, and then we have made budget requests for equipment needs, things like that. And so that's just within the regular budgetary process. Yeah. So those requests have been made. Yeah.
One of those things over the past, 20 years has been a big jump from communication, journalism, what commercial design is versus desktop publishing into graphic design. And we're just trying to align a lot what's going on in the state and changes. It might have been made at a lot of universities 30 years ago. It might not have hit us quite the same way. So we've gone through and went through a lot of the C&I and added a lot of our classes that would work if we were to hire somebody for that. They fit in and they follow the guidelines of other community colleges. So we're right on par with like Butler and some of those other schools that are a little bit bigger. So if we did have that, we could offer those introduction to graphic design courses. Also, we're missing photography as an element that we currently don't teach. That there's a demand for. We get people always asking for that, a photography class that I think would fill up a lot of non-majors, community majors. A lot of our classes would then also help the communications major. So where does graphic design fit? It's usually in the art department in the state of Kansas, but it would also help a lot of the communication. So wouldn't just be adding students to our program. I think it'd be adding students to other programs. And I think over the course of the growth of the school, that would be the next best fit. We were on trajectory to have a giant increase in students, and then we kind of had a couple local high school art teachers leave the area and do that, and then COVID hit, and then we also had identified that students are now only get X amount of arts and humanities class, and so if a kid's interested in band and theater and doing this stuff, they might not have the ability to take an art class or do something like that in their high school level. And so that's what actually helped us get quite a few summer school students that are dual enrollment there. So it's kind of this niche road. We do think that it'd be a great addition to our program. Is right now the exact time? We don't know if we have the right amount of students quite yet.
Yeah, we're in a bit of a catch-22 in terms of facilities, because if we recruited, let's say, for instance, we recruited 50 students, we really couldn't accommodate them in the facilities we have currently, but we need 30 or 40 students in order to accommodate another professor, if that makes sense. So the need is there. The request is there from students to teach these courses, but the facilities aren't robust enough to handle that, if that makes sense. So I think if we are looking at moving into a new facility, we definitely had those plans in mind for, graphic design space and space for that kind of thing. So.
At the community college level, a graphic design student would take everything that an art major does. They just take an introduction to graphic design and a typography course. The rest of them would be done at the transfer level. They would above that 300 level, so they would be there. It's essentially something we already do. Same with photography. I'd just be adding those 2 extra courses to deal with that. But it also add other opportunities for work study positions and other things on campus and in-house type stuff, and kind of catch us up. We're still making art updated in the 1980s, hands-on here. Digital is what a lot of our students from the local high schools come in, and they're really interested in a lot of that. I'd say about 50% of students we get come in end up transferring for graphic design or interior design, and those are going to be computer-based programs that do this. And we're still kind of doing hands-on stuff.
I think all of what you're telling us is information, good information for us to know. But as the board and in our policy governance, we hire a president. I think it's good for us, but I think the result is you have to work through the administration. It's nice for us to know those things, but I'm going to say this board, it's not a job for us to be doing. And thank you for telling us. I know it's been known, you've made yourself known, and Dr. Root, I know, is one who is willing to work, and he knows where the needs are, and he knows how it can be funded. I appreciate knowing what you've done. I appreciate what you do. But Beth, did you have one last question that we can go on to?
Your mural on the court building is beautiful, but I always figured you weren't finished.
Yeah.
As long as your part was there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the part was gone, and I'm thinking, did they make you take the part away, or are you finished?
Not quite finished. I'm going to hopefully be out there this weekend.
I just want to ask.
No, we feel as though, we are heard and understood when it comes to the needs, the administration, the processes that we have. They're totally on board with us expanding. We just need $16 million. So that was a request in there, I think. So if you've got it, we'll take it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for answering the questions.
And helping beautify Garden City.
Okay, I think we're ready to go on to incidental information, page 202. Anybody have any comments on any of that? Any questions you need to ask or have a clarification on?
Desperate.
Well, the problem with
Yeah.
bus driving is it's not a steady job that you can hire somebody to be there enough, and you have to rely on part-time drivers to come in who are coming from other jobs possibly, or they have conflicts and they can't drop and run like some of us could have in the past.
Well,
I think that's the biggest problem you have on your bus drivers. I'm sorry.
so there's several issues now that present themselves. One is obviously drivers, finding qualified drivers. Second being having enough transportation there when you have all your teams traveling at the same time. But probably what convolutes us there the most there, and we are desperate for CDL drivers or bus drivers. I think every entity, every school district, is facing the same thing. Where things get a little bit tricky and where it becomes a little bit frustrating, and we're addressing and working through this, is when you have hired employees and you have other entities that are coming and offering more money to try to steal and take the employees that you do have. And so that is happening. That's a reality. We're addressing it. But what that does there is then helps, doesn't help. creates a sense there to where we have to level the playing field there, that if they're going to be, if we're paying $20 an hour and they're being offered 22 somewhere else, well, in order to retain them and keep the ones that we do have, well, now you're becoming competitive in the nature of what it is you're paying. And that's a reality as far as what it is we're having. So, we're, I mean, we've looked at ways to try to be creative as far as having certain teams travel together, purchasing some of the larger passenger vans that we've purchased in the last few years for some of the smaller teams that are traveling helps to create to clear up some of the travel issues. But we are desperate for bus drivers.
The only reason I bring it up is if a coach has to drive, there's like during any kind of contest, if you're worth your salt as a coach, you're going to, endorphins are going to be flowing and everything's great. Win or lose, everything's really great as far as, but it's dangerous because it drops so quickly that if you're having to drive your team back,
Yeah.
it can be very, very, very serious.
Yeah.
And I just hate, there should be retired people that have nothing better to do than sit around and watch TV all day, but maybe that's not the case. But I just wanted to bring up that fact that it is not a good, in my opinion, I don't care if you're coaching tiddlywinks. If you're driving a bus there and driving a bus back or a van,
Right.
it can be dangerous
Yeah.
if there's no one else around you.
I think I drove for probably 20 years, and Bob, I will echo what you're saying. I was adamantly against coaches driving for those very reasons. You get them there, they're thinking about the contest on the way. You get them there, they play whether they win or lose. They're thinking about that on their way home. They're distracted. A lot of the other coaches are tired. They're sleeping. It was not a good thing to have coaches driving.
Just need to have the legislator change the statute so none of it be hired.
No. Anything
Yeah.
else in the incidental information that for this board? Marilyn, do you have something? Oh, I thought you were. Beth? Any more, Bob? No. David? Well, then let's go on to report from Finney County Economic Development Corporation.
No report this month.
Okay, you got a report from KACCT?
The next meeting will be, in Seward County on December 1st and 2nd. Our last meeting was in August. That was County. Janet attended part of it.
Is that your report?
I should put
The end. All right, ownership linkage. Anybody got any ownership linkage they would like to report? Go ahead.
things.
Good.
I attended the Allied Health Advisory Board on last Thursday on the 12th. And then on Friday, the 13th, I attended the Early Childhood Education Advisory Board. The next meeting on that one, I'm the representative on that one. The next meeting is April 19th, 2024. We will need to name a new representative. Period.
I attended the DPS Advisory Council meeting on September 23rd. Well attended as always, 13 partners from the area. We discussed new equipment approved by Perkins for the CRAM and EMIC program. Another note, sad note, that I just got notified that Dennis Elam passed away Sunday. Yeah,
He was out there for a long time.
so your plans for after the end of the,
Yep.
that's all right.
Anything else? I think we had a good group of people when we had the last President's Coffee. Seemed like there was a lot of people there that had a lot of questions that you were able to answer or not answer, or lead them astray on. I don't
Hope not to lead them astray.
know. No, but anything else anybody has that they want to talk about on ownership linkage? Going on, let's looking right quick at the upcoming calendar dates. You can go down through those. I draw your attention to in the morning, annual or a monthly chamber breakfast. I would encourage anyone who can to go to that. As I've said earlier, the volleyball team's doing well. The soccer team seems to be winning some and losing some. Used to be we didn't win any. Women's volleyball is really fun to watch if you haven't seen them. Football, October the 28th, Ellsworth with tailgate at 10 o'clock. Doesn't seem right, but 1st of November, basketball getting started again. There's quite a few dates going down through there. I'm not going to read them all for you. Call your attention to the advisory boards that are there. If that one of them is yours, why, you know the date. I think we would now be ready to go into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board recess into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the open meetings exception for personal matters of non-elected personnel, which, if discussed in open meeting, might violate their right to privacy, and that our president, vice president Carla Armstrong, vice president Mark Malone, and vice president Colin Lamb be included. The open meeting will resume here in the Ronald J. Scott Endowment Room in 15 minutes, which according to that clock would be 5 minutes after 7.
After.
Yeah, just a couple. Sister Janice, was she still wanting to,
Yes, she thought she was going to be here tonight. She got stuck helping someone up in Kansas City with a passport. And she apologizes. And I said, well, we have one of these once a month. So she said if it can be, if she's here in town, she would love to come and do that. So, well, but as I said when I nominated her, she's very active all over the place.
Well, we'd like to hear from them.
I will do what I can do, and if we can have her, I'll try, unless somebody else has somebody for next month. I don't want to do that.
If there isn't any reason we couldn't have two
Yeah.
or three.
All right. I'll let y'all know.
Talk for 10 minutes apiece, like
Yeah.
Art did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we could still have them. Arlene, you got one more?
Yeah, can we, for next meeting, talk about the conference and the information that we can share?
Yes. You would put that on the agenda. I think we'd all like to hear it. Anything else? We're adjourned.